Hi guys, this is just a quick trigger warning. This episode does contain discussions of violence, murder and mental illness that may be disturbing to some listeners. Now if you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out and seek some help. I'm going to provide some resources at the end of the episode if you want to skip ahead. Hello and welcome back my culty crime crew. I'm Bubbles, your host, and I'm so excited to have you back for another episode of Cozy Cults and Crimes. Now here in Australia, as the nights are starting to grow colder, there is nothing quite like a captivating true crime story to get lost in. I've got a steaming mug of tea in hand, though tonight's story might have me reaching for something a bit stronger, to be honest. Whatever could drink you're cozied up with, take a sip and settle in, because tonight we're diving into the bone-chilling story of Rodney Alcala. This man's charming smile concealed a monstrous darkness known as the dating game killer. Alcala's story is a stark reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places. But before we begin, I want to remind each and every one of you that the stories we share are about real people, real lives affected by these unimaginable events. We always aim to honour their memory with respect and compassion. Now, Alcala's life story is a macabre tapestry woven from threads of childhood trauma, psychological turmoil, and escalating predatory behaviour. We're going to trace his path from a troubled childhood to his horrific crimes, exploring the factors that shaped him into a monster. Rodney Alcala was born Rodrigo Jacques Alcala Bacor, I hope I've said that correctly, in 1943 in San Antonio, Texas. His early years were far from idyllic though. His childhood was marred by instability and emotional deprivation. His father, Raul, abandoned the family when Rodney was young, leaving his mother, Ana Maria, to raise him and his siblings in pretty much poverty. You can only imagine the strain and hardship of a single mother trying to provide for her children in such difficult circumstances. Ana Maria struggled to make ends meet and the family moved frequently, even spending time in Mexico. This constant upheaval disrupted Alcala's social development and education, depriving him of the stability and security that children need to survive and thrive. It is so heartbreaking to think of a young child being uprooted so many times, never having a place to truly call home. This lack of stability can have a profound impact on a child's sense of self and their ability to form healthy relationships. Now, it's not an excuse for Alcala's later actions, but it is a piece of the puzzle that does help us understand the complex factors that shaped him into who he was, or more like the monster he was. Now, research does suggest that childhood trauma like what Alcala experienced can significantly increase the risk of antisocial behaviour and aggression in adulthood. It's like planting little black seeds for a bleak future. The lack of a stable home environment, coupled with the emotional turmoil of his father's abandonment, may have left very deep scars on Alcala's young psyche. As Alcala entered adolescence, his behavioural problems only got worse. He engaged in petty theft, skipped school, and ran away from home, disregarding any rules and any authority. It was during this time that he became interested in photography, a hobby that would later become probably the most sinister tool in his arsenal. This fascination with capturing and controlling images might have been an early sign of his desire to manipulate and control others. Some experts also believe that his early delinquency stemmed from a combination of environmental factors like a lack of parental guidance and underlying psychological vulnerabilities. It's a complex interplay of nature versus nurture. a recipe for a troubled soul. It's chilling to think that a seemingly innocent hobby, such as photography, can be twisted into something so wrong and dark and sinister. Alcala's use of photography to lure and control his victims is a stark reminder of how easily everyday objects and activities can be weaponized by those with malicious intent. Now at 17, Alcala joined the army, perhaps seeking a sense of purpose and structure that his life had lacked up until then. However, his time in the military was short-lived. He was medically discharged after suffering a nervous breakdown and going AWOL on more than one occasion. During his service, he was also diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, a condition categorised by the lack of empathy, remorse, and disregard for social norms. This diagnosis is often associated with a higher risk of violent behaviour. It's as if a switch had been flipped in Alcala's brain, removing the brakes on any and all his impulses, and paving the way for the darkness that would consume him. Despite this ominous diagnosis, Alcala's story was far from over. In fact, sadly, it was just the beginning. Despite his troubled past and a diagnosis that foreshadowed his violent tendencies, Alcala managed to gain admission to UCLA's prestigious film school. This was the late 1960s, a time of cultural upheaval and artistic expression. Alcala, with his charisma and intelligence, seemed to fit right in. But beneath the surface, his relationships with women were far from healthy. Alcala's relationships often followed a disturbing pattern. He would idolise a woman, showering her with attention and affection, but as the relationship progressed, he would devalue her, criticising her appearance or her personality. Eventually, he would throw her aside, discarding her and moving on to his next target. This pattern of idealisation, devaluation and discardment is often seen in individuals with narcissistic personality disorder. It's a pattern that many survivors of this narcissistic abuse can sadly relate to. The emotional rollercoaster of being adored one moment and criticised the next can be incredibly damaging. It's a testament to Alcala's manipulative nature that he could keep this pattern hidden from those around him, maintaining a facade of normalcy while exploiting and abusing his partners. Shows how manipulative he was. Alcala's manipulative behaviour extended beyond romantic relationships as well. He was known to isolate his victims from their friends and family, controlling their movements and communication. Another classic tactic used by abusers to maintain power and control over their victims. It's a chilling reminder that abuse often thrives in isolation. When victims are cut off from their support systems, they become vulnerable to manipulation and violence. It's essential to recognise the signs of coercive control and to reach out for help if you or someone you know might be experiencing it. In 1968, Alcala's predatory instincts took a horrifying turn. He kidnapped and sexually assaulted 8-year-old Tali Shapiro, luring her into his apartment under the guise of a photography session. This act was a turning point, revealing the depths of Alcala's depravity, but Tali miraculously survived the assault, and her testimony led to Alcala's arrest and conviction. In her own words, she later recounted, quote, "I knew that if I didn't fight for my life, I would die," end quote. Tali's story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Despite the unimaginable trauma she endured, she found the courage to speak out against her attacker. Her bravery not only helped put Alcala behind bars, but also saved countless other potential victims from his clutches. Alcala was initially sentenced to 1 year to life in prison for the assault on Tali Shapiro. However, he was paroled after only 34 months, a decision that would have the most devastating of consequences. Upon his release, Alcala fled to New York under the alias John Berger. He enrolled in NYU's film school, blending into the new environment and continuing on with his predatory behaviour. One of the most twisted facts of this case to me is the fact that he even worked as a counsellor at a girls' camp, exploiting his position of trust to gain access to potential victims. It's so infuriating to me to think that someone with Alcala's criminal history could be allowed to work with children. I get at the time the laws weren't as strict, but still. This case highlights that importance of thorough background checks and vigilance in protecting vulnerable populations from predators like Alcala. Now, during his time as John Berger, Alcala continued to prey on young women, using his charm and photography skills to lure them into dangerous situations. He was like a chameleon, adapting to his surroundings and leaving a trail of terror in his wake. In the late 1970s, while still living under the alias of John Berger, Alcala embarked on a ruthless murder spree that would terrorize the state of California and solidify his place in the annals of true crime. Between 1977 and 1979, Alcala targeted young women across the state, using his charm and photography skills to lure them into his trap. He often posed as a professional photographer, offering free photo shoots to unsuspecting women. Once alone with them, he would unleash his violence, often strangling, beating, and sexually assaulting them. His first known victim during this time was 18-year-old Jill Barcombe, a free-spirited young woman who had recently moved to California from New York in search of a new life. Jill was found strangled in a Los Angeles ravine, her body posed in a way that suggested Alcala had actually taken disturbing pleasure in arranging her remains. Ugh, makes my skin crawl. And just a few months later, 27-year-old Georgia Wickstead, a kind and passionate nurse, was discovered brutally murdered in her Malibu apartment. She had been beaten, strangled, and sexually assaulted. Her life tragically cut short by Alcala's senseless violence. The following year, in June 1978, 31-year-old Charlotte Lamb, a legal secretary known for her intelligence and wit, was found murdered in the laundry room of her El Segundo apartment complex. And like Jill and Georgia, Charlotte had been subjected to Alcala's brutal and incredibly degrading attacks. In the February of 1979, Alcala's violence escalated even further. I don't know how much further it could go, when he kidnapped and assaulted 15-year-old Monique Hoyt. He subjected her to a horrific ordeal of rape and torture. But Monique miraculously managed to escape and report him to the police. Tragically though, her report was not taken seriously, and Alcala remained free to continue his reign of terror. It's a heartbreaking reminder of how often victims' voices are ignored or dismissed, especially when the perpetrator is a charming and seemingly trustworthy individual like Alcala. This case underscores the importance of believing survivors and taking their reports super seriously. Just a few months later, in June of 1979, 21-year-old Jill Parento, a bright and ambitious computer programmer, became Alcala's next victim. She was found murdered in her Burbank apartment, her life stolen by a man she considered a friend. An Orange County investigator reflecting on the case described Alcala as a quote, master manipulator. He was charming, intelligent, but underneath that facade, he was a cold-blooded killer. These women were more than just statistics. They were daughters, sisters, friends, and colleagues. They had dreams, aspirations, and loved ones who were devastated by their loss. Their stories are a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of women in a society that often fails to protect us from predators like Alcala. I like to think in the years since then, society has come a long way, but it still happens. Alcala's ability to blend in and deceive was chillingly evident before his capture, in the most bizarrest twist of probably any crime case that I've come across. He appeared as a contestant on a popular TV show at the time called The Dating Game, and please take it to note, he was doing these attacks during this time. He presented himself as a charming bachelor, a photographer with a love of skydiving and motorcycles. Obviously, unbeknownst to the audience and other contestants, this charming bachelor was a serial killer, actively preying on young women. And probably the scariest part, he even won the episode. The Bachelorette chose him. But the woman he was supposed to go on the date with did decline after finding him quite creepy. Tragically, Alcala's crimes continued after his television appearance. In 1979, 12-year-old Robin Samso disappeared from Huntington Beach while riding her bicycle to ballet class. An extensive search started, and Robin's body was tragically discovered 12 days later in the foothills of San Gabriel Mountains. Now, a crucial piece of evidence was found near Robin's remains, an earring, and it was linked to Alcala and led to his arrest. The investigation into Robin's disappearance uncovered a trove of disturbing evidence, including hundreds of photographs taken by Alcala, depicting women and children in various poses, some suggestive, others just outright disturbing. One of these photographs showed Robin among the collection, further solidifying Alcala's guilt. The legal battles that followed were a rollercoaster of convictions and appeals. Alcala was initially sentenced to death in 1980 for Robin's murder. It makes me so mad. But the sentence was overturned on appeal due to procedural errors. He faced multiple retrials, with his case becoming one of the longest and most complex in Californian history. Alcala, however, maintained his innocence throughout the trials. His attorney argued, quote, "Mr. Alcala maintains his innocence. The evidence against him is circumstantial, and there are many unanswered questions in this case," end quote. Not until 2003 did DNA evidence link Alcala to several cold cases, including the murder of 4 other women in Los Angeles County in the late 1970s. This led to a new trial, and in 2006, yes, you heard me, 2006, Alcala was once again sentenced to the death. However, his legal team continued to appeal, and the case dragged on for more years. And then, in 2010, another chilling discovery was made. A storage locker rented by Alcala in Seattle was found to contain over 1,000 more photographs, many depicting women and children in many various states of undress and distress. This horrifying collection raised the possibility that Alcala may have had many more victims that were previously unknown. The photographs sparked a nationwide effort to identify the individuals in the pictures and determine their fates. Some of the photos led to the identification of additional victims, while others remained unsolved mysteries to this very day. The sheer number of photographs and the chilling nature of their content painted a picture of a predator who had been operating undetected and unsupervised for years. Finally, in 2010, after decades of legal battles and appeals, Alcala was convicted of murder 5 times in California and sentenced to death for the 3rd and final time. He was also charged with 2 murders in New York, in which he pled guilty to in 2013. Unfortunately, in my opinion, Alcala died of natural causes in 2021 while awaiting execution, leaving behind such a legacy of pain, suffering, and unanswered questions. Prosecutor Matt Murphy, who fought so tirelessly to bring Alcala to justice, asserted this, quote, "This is a man who stalked and killed women for sport. He got a thrill out of it, and he deserved the death penalty." End quote. His appearance on the dating game serves as a haunting reminder that darkness can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary individuals. It's a chilling chapter in a story filled with tragedy and unanswered questions. It also raises disturbing questions about the nature of evil and its ability to hide in plain sight. How could someone so dangerous appear so normal? How could he charm his way onto a dating show while simultaneously committing these heinous crimes? The chilling discovery of Robin Samso's photograph among Alcala's collection, young life tragically cut short, leaves us grappling with a haunting question. How could a seemingly ordinary man, a charming contestant on the dating game, harbour such unspeakable darkness within? To unravel this enigma, we must delve into the social contexts that shaped Alcala's twisted path. The late 1960s and early 70s were a time of immense cultural upheaval in the United States, often dubbed the sexual revolution. Free love was promoted in popular songs like Get Together by the Youngbloods and Easy Rider, and even mainstream news outlets. The atmosphere of liberation and experimentation, while empowering for many, also provided a smokescreen for predators like Alcala. The era's emphasis on casual dating and sexual exploration could easily be manipulated by those with sinister intentions. The burgeoning women's liberation movement also played a complex role. Women were breaking free from traditional roles, embracing their independence, and challenging societal norms. This newfound freedom, while empowering, also made some women vulnerable in a society still largely dominated by men. Alcala, a master manipulator, preyed on this vulnerability, targeting young women who were eager to embrace their newfound freedoms. The enigma of evil is a question that has haunted humanity for centuries. What transforms a normal, ordinary person into a monster? In Alcala's case, experts believe it was a perfect storm of factors. His diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder when he was in the army, characterised by a lack of empathy and disregard for social norms, certainly played a role in this. But it's crucial to remember that a diagnosis doesn't absolve an individual of responsibility. Alcala made conscious choices to inflict pain and suffering on others. I think criminal profiler Pat Brown further explained this well. Alcala's crimes were about power and control. He enjoyed the process of hunting and capturing his victims, and he took pleasure in their suffering. Some experts draw a distinction between psychopathy, often considered innate and characterized by a lack of conscience, and antisocial personality disorder, which may be influenced by environmental factors. While Alcala exhibited traits of both of these, the extent to which each contributed to his crimes remains a subject of debate. Forensic psychologist Dr. Park Dietz offered his expert opinion, stating Alcala fits the profile of a psychopath. He lacks empathy, remorse, and a conscience. He is a predator who derives pleasure from inflicting pain on others. His troubled childhood, marked by neglect and abandonment, likely also played a role in shaping his warped sense of self. However, it's important to note again that many individuals who experience trauma don't become killers. It's a combination of various factors, biological, psychological, and social, that can create a breeding ground for evil such as his. Ultimately, Alcala's case reminds us that evil can wear a charming mask. His intelligence, charisma, and even his artistic talents allowed him to manipulate and deceive, making him all the more dangerous. The legacy of Rodney Alcala is a haunting one, a testament to the devastating consequences of unchecked evil. But it is also a story of resilience, survival, and the relentless pursuit of justice. The courage of Alcala's survivors, who bravely shared their stories and helped bring him to justice, are an inspiration to all of us. Today, organisations like the National Centre for Victims of Crime in the United States continue to activate for the rights and support of survivors. By learning from the past, we can strive together to create a safer future for everyone. This story also forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the nature of evil and the challenges of seeking justice. But again, it's a story of resilience, survival, and the unwavering pursuit of truth. As we close this chapter on the dating game killer, let's take a moment to remember the victims, their families, and the countless lives forever scarred by Alcala's heinous crimes. Let their stories serve us as a reminder to remain vigilant, to trust our instincts, and to always seek the light even in the darkest of times. Now, as we prepare to part ways, my culty crime crew, I want to extend a heartfelt and warm invitation to you guys. If there is a crime or a cult story that you're curious about, that you feel needs to be told, I implore and invite you to email me at cozy.cults.crimes@gmail.com. That's cozy.cults.crimes@gmail.com. Or you can message me on Instagram at the same, cozy.cults.crimes. Your interests and insights help me shape these episodes, and I hope together we can continue to uncover the mysteries that lie hidden in the shadows, and do it in a way that's cozy and comfy and makes us all happy. Also, if today's episode has touched you or stirred something within, please take a moment for yourself, practice some self-care, reach out to a friend, or simply enjoy a warm cup of tea wrapped in your dressing gown. Not gonna lie, I'm literally wrapped in mine right now. Again. Honestly though, if you or someone you know needs support, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to Lifeline Australia. You can call them at 13 11 14, or you can text them even at 04 77 13 1114. They offer confidential crisis support and are available 24/7. Remember guys, there is always help available, and you're never alone. You've got me and your culty crime crew here behind you every step of the way. And with that, until next time, keep that flame of curiosity burning, but never forget the warmth of the fires that keep us all connected. Be well, stay cozy, and remember, in pursuing the truth, we hope to always find that light. Thank you for joining in, my guys. I'm Bubbles, and I can't wait to welcome you back next time for another journey into the shadowy, yet strangely comforting world of cozy cults and crimes. I'll see you next time. Bye!